Pastor Frank DiMora here. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. Today is Saturday, March the 30th, 2019. And today I want to talk a little bit about the rebuilding of the Third Temple, in case you don't know anything about it. Very briefly, in the book of Daniel, the prophet tells us about the temple, about a peace agreement that will be confirmed for a period of 7 years. Let me read this. Daniel 9:27. And he, which he is in reference to the Antichrist, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Now, this 1 week is actually a heptad, and it actually is a period of 7. And in this case, when you do the study, you'll see that the period as called 1 week, the heptad, is actually 7 years. So this Antichrist person is going to confirm a covenant. It doesn't say he makes it, he will confirm it. And it will be confirmed for a period of a heptad or 7 years. And in the midst of the week, he, again talking about the Antichrist, and in the midst of the week would mean exactly 3.5 years into the 7-year period of time, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. So the Jews have to have a temple, and they are going to start up the sacrifices, and exactly 1,260 days from the confirmation of this covenant that we see in Daniel 9:27, the Antichrist is going to go into the temple and stop the Jewish sacrifices that start up again. And for the overspreading of abominations, he, again referring to the Antichrist, shall make it desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Now, when this peace confirmation takes place, you know you're at the beginning of the 7-year period, is what we know from the book of Revelation is the tribulation period. This is the last 7 years without Jesus Christ physically ruling on planet Earth. At the end of the 7-year period of time, Jesus returns back to earth, back to Jerusalem, and sets up his kingdom for 1,000 years, ruling from Jerusalem. So when there's talk about rebuilding a third temple, those of us who know what the prophecy says, we have a heightened alert, because that really tells us we have reached the point now where the last 7 years begins. In the book of Matthew chapter 24, because Jesus points to Daniel 9:27, and he mentions Daniel about the abomination of desolation spoken by the prophet Daniel. So there's 2 places right there that talk about this temple that will be built and the confirmation of this heptad or 7-year period of time. So on March the 28th, 2019, there was a news story that came out by the Now the End Begins. And the headline, as you can see, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo posts shock video implying United States may also support the building of a third Jewish temple in Israel. Well, first of all, when I looked at the news, I can't see anywhere in this news where it is implying any such thing. And I'll explain it as I go through this article. Right below the picture it says the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has published a video of his visit to Israel on his Twitter page, which omits Muslim shrines in Jerusalem but includes a model of the third temple there. From a biblical prophecy perspective, Donald Trump is the greatest president since Harry S. Truman recognized the regathered nation of Israel back on May 14, 1948. And in many respects, I would dare say that President Trump has outdone his predecessor regarding Israel. So now the question is, just how far is he planning to go? Could it be that part of Jared Kushner's secret Middle East plan contains a third Jewish temple to be constructed in Jerusalem? Now keep in mind, this is hearsay. We don't know what's in the Jared Kushner and Donald Trump peace plan yet. So anything that they're saying here is nothing but speculation and hearsay. And when you scroll down into this article, you'll see this is the Jerusalem video that was posted. I'm going to play it for you, and then I'm going to give you the commentary. Might help you.
place. We have a great partner, phenomenal relationship between our two countries, and the people who work at this embassy are truly at the center of the relationship between the United States and Israel.
Now, I'm going to stop it right there because they're talking about the embassy of the Americans that was in Tel Aviv. Under Donald Trump, it moved to Jerusalem, and that's what he's referring to.
I get a chance to see your handiwork as a Secretary of State almost every day. It comes to me through lots of different places. All the various elements, the best of the Department of State resides here. It's a very special place. It's a special place for people of all the Abrahamic faiths. As a Christian, I always come here and learn more about my faith, the history of this place. And it's wonderful to be here at this important time in the relationship between our two countries as well.
As a cadet, I studied the battles of the Golan. Tonight, President Trump made the decision to recognize.
Now I'm going to stop it right there and just rewind it for a second. This is the model that this person who wrote this article is talking about that showed up in the Secretary's video.
Made the decision to recognize that hard-fought real estate, that important place, is proper to be a sovereign part of the state of Israel.
And they're talking about the recent proclamation by President Donald Trump that the Golan Heights is sovereign to the nation of Israel. So what this person alludes to in this article is the fact that, well, the video doesn't show any of the Muslim shrines like on the Dome of the Rock, but it shows the temple. And why would they do that? So at this point, just because they showed the temple and didn't show the Dome of the Rock of the Muslims' third most holy site doesn't necessarily mean that there is going to be the third temple built or announced in this peace plan that's going to be unveiled in April. This is Jared Kirshner. Now, let me show you 1 Thessalonians 5:3. This is interesting. This is where Paul the Apostle talks about the time of peace and safety, the calling for it. Look what he says. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Now, underneath this video that was posted by the Secretary of State, you'll see that he has his picture here. It is his tweeting some information. He says, great visit to hashtag Israel to meet with good friends, Netanyahu, who's the Prime Minister of Israel. And also you see that the President, when he was there as well. Built upon our strong partnership for, now look at this, peace and security. That's exactly what Paul talked about. So when they're calling for peace and security, or peace and safety, it's the same thing. That's when we see destruction is going to come. Not some kind of peace that everybody's going to be joyful of, but there's going to be some kind of destruction, and only God knows what that is. So here we have the information that the peace plan will be unveiled on April. We have no idea what's in it, so we really shouldn't alarm anybody with speculation. However, noting that, what we do know is the very things that were written down in the Bible, for example, for peace and safety, and rebuilding the temple, and the destruction, the sudden destruction that the Lord reveals to us that will come when they're calling for peace and safety. It is a possibility, and I want to underline that. It is a possibility that this peace plan might be the unveiling of what Daniel said and what Jesus Christ pointed to. Now, here's the underlying bottom line, which is really important to this video. Since the Lord revealed to us the exact number of years, which would be 7 years, for the confirmation of this covenant that will be signed between Israel and many people, which is obviously the Arab nations, Islamic people. If this unveiling from President Trump and Jared Kushner in April is not for a period of 7 years, it is not the covenant, and it is not the peace agreement that Daniel 9:27 points to, or that Jesus in Matthew chapter 24 alludes to when he points back to the Old Testament in Daniel. Simply put, it cannot be, because it has to be that specific time, 7 years. So we're going to err on cautious, but at the same time, the Lord told us to keep on a watch, and for good reason. Because if in April it does roll over to a 7-year period of time, and in that peace agreement, it does come out that part of this peace agreement is the rebuilding of the temple, then, my friends, you'll know that we're at the cusp of the beginning of the 7-year tribulation that was prophesied by Jesus. And we read also in the book of Revelation, which is going to be a 7-year time period like has never happened on this planet before. And anyone who doesn't receive Jesus Christ, at this point, you'd have to be out of your mind if you know these prophecies. All I know is for sure the building of this third temple is coming very, very soon. We know that because all of the rest of the prophecies that the Lord shared that would happen all at the same time, for example, in chapter 24 of Matthew with all those birth pain signs, they're all here in one single generation. And we're hearing more about the call for peace and safety, and we're seeing more burden about Jerusalem, as the prophet Zechariah warns to us in chapter 12 of that Old Testament book. So if you don't know the Lord, and if you do know the Lord, let's watch the news. Let's hear what comes out concerning this hidden peace plan from the Trump administration. And as I said, it will be very easy to recognize if it is in fact a period of 7 years. Then we'll know this is the confirmation that Daniel talked about. What I'd like to suggest is copy and paste this title, and this is a documentary that I made. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long, about all of the facts and the evidence showing us that this temple is going to be resurrected soon. If you haven't seen this video and you don't know anything about prophecy or the closeness of Jesus Christ, for sure you're going to need to watch this video, because it has a plethora of facts concerning the new priest, the red heifer, all of the instruments used in the sacrifices of the lambs like they did almost 2,000 years ago, and much, much more, that this documentary, I'm convinced, will blow your mind if you watch this, because it definitely shows the closeness of our Messiah, our loving God and Savior, Jesus Christ.